8 years, obviously a whole lot of experience. Why don't you give us some of the highlights of the best decisions you made? Because you mentioned you had your hand in a lot of different things, right? Everything works a little, nothing works a lot.
Yep.
Why don't you give us some of the things that worked better than others, and some of the massive failures? Because
Sure.
I know they were there. I've had massive failures. We all have, and so let's see if we can't learn from some of the mistakes and the wins.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I always like to teach the wheel of fortune, right? It's, you have as many different pieces of the pie, and I always find that new agents start is they focus in on one piece of the pie, working internet leads, and they don't necessarily branch out into other pieces of that pie. And while internet leads can be, some people, that's all they do, and that's all they do forever, and that's great. But I kind of wanted to find other avenues. So a few things I kind of did, and some things admittedly I don't do any longer, but networking groups I've always had good success with. So there's a few national ones like BNI. If there's a BNI group, in your area, which there generally is, they're everywhere. BNI is a fantastic avenue to get your name out there. Reason being is that, when you join the group, you're the health insurance person for that particular group. No one else, you're not competing against anyone else in the group. That's what I always loved about BNI. And it's a giver's gain philosophy, which, essentially is what we're doing here today, giver's gain. That's kind of, so I like the philosophy. So BNI, now I'm no longer a BNI member, but I was a BNI member for 5 or 6 years. And I still get referrals from people that I work with. I just, kind of get away from it because I was getting busy, but whatever. I'm still open to rejoining at some point. Walk and talks, I did a lot early on. That's another kind of piece of the pie. And I would do that essentially just as another way to get off the phone. So you'd make a couple hours of calls, haven't talked to anyone, you get some hangups, you get frustrated. All right, it's a beautiful day outside. I'm going to go walk around, stop into small businesses, drop off a business card. I call it stop, drop, and roll. You stop in, you drop off a business card, you say hello, and you roll on to the next one.
That's awesome.
And you'll find it's amazing the opportunities you'll find just by getting out there. And I still have clients to this day, years later, that I got from walk and talks, because I met them in person too, which is also a much longer relationship you're going to have than any internet lead you ever get. So walk and talks are good. Social media marketing, and it doesn't have to be paid, just putting stuff out there, letting people know what you do. So what didn't work, I started doing a newsletter, kind of really early on. It was also kind of really the beginning of ACA. I'm like, hey, I'm going to put out this monthly newsletter. I'm going to get all these leads from it. So I was mailing it out. I was like walking around my neighborhood, dropping it in people's mailboxes. Thought it was this fantastic idea. I put it on put it on polls. I just kind of put these newsletters wherever I could think of, and wasted a lot of time, number one, writing the newsletter, and then kind of editing it, making it look professional, putting it all over town, and then nothing, not a single lead. So that didn't work.
Everything works a little, nothing works a lot. What I'm hoping that you get from this is that everything does work a little, but just don't invest your life savings into something hoping it'll work, or if you have the means to diversify and do all of these different things. But as Drew mentioned, free social media content is also a great resource as well. A lot of people don't realize that it is it's a consistency game, right? I was trying to use a word aside from numbers game, right? Because we hear that all the time, but it's a consistency game, right? You can't post a status one time and assume that it's going to work, right? It's more so constantly being in front of people. We live in a world where you're scrolling and you might look at something for 2 seconds before you're on to the next. But if it's in front of people's face all the time, right, then that's where the real value is going to come from.